Dudley Heights. Project location, we're located in the mixed-use neighborhood edge on Dudley Heights Northern Boulevard, right just south of the existing primary school. Here's an aerial just showing the project site. So that white roof that you see right in the top center of the screen is the middle school on the north side of Dudley Heights. On the south side is the primary school with their parking lot. And as you go further south, you'll see a vacant funeral home with the large asphalt parking lot. And then there's two family dwellings to the south of that as well. Those are owned by KIP. They've been vacant since I believe 2016. Nothing has been done with them at that time. There's no current use in any of those buildings. This is a massing diagram just to show the neighborhood. In the foreground is the existing Livingston School apartments. Going from left to right is the middle school. They're on your left. In the center is the existing primary school. And then right in the middle of the page is the proposed high school. We'll get into the materials a little bit later, but it is a proposed 4-story building with the first 2 stories of masonry material to match the adjacent buildings, and then metal and glass panels above that for the other 2 floors. Go one more slide and then go back. Okay. So this is the existing conditions plan. You'll see the primary school up on the top of the page with the parking lot. As you work your way down, the existing funeral home and two family dwellings. You'll also see kind of in the middle of the page a dashed line. As part of due diligence getting into this project, we had a geotech report completed. There were several borings done on the site. And as you can see towards the back of the property, it drops off quite a bit and it continues on to the city property and then down towards Route 9. During their investigation of the report, they were to determine that that is a safe slope stability setback line of that steep slope in the rear of the property. Basically the recommendations that came from that report is the building would have to be built on slab on grade. The building and any portions of the building would have to be built to the left of this line. And then also any stormwater that was directed towards the rear of the property, they recommended that we store and discharge it to the Dudley Heights site to avoid any stormwater discharge going over the slope in the back. So this is the proposed site plan. As you can see in yellow is the safe slope stability setback line, and the proposed high school is to the left of that. The school is a 4-story building, about 37,400 square feet on the first floor level, and about 102,000 square feet all together. We're showing 50 parking spaces at the primary school and 139 parking spaces at the high school. Within the requirements, the minimum and maximum city code. We also have the required ADA parking spaces. In the front of the property, in the building, we're also showing bike racks for the students who ride bikes to school, and then multiple sidewalks coming off of Dudley Heights, depending on which direction they could be coming from. And I'll get into a little bit more with the driveways and things like that. So currently, there's 6 curb cuts along this property in these locations. We're going to be reducing that down to 2. There's a southern driveway at the bottom of the page that you see there, and then also the existing egress driveway for the primary which will be changed into a two-way, one in and two out. We'd also be providing down lighting in the parking lot areas, and then also lighting on the building. Also, utilities, I will get to that in the orange. You'll see the stormwater areas as we're keeping that to the left of the slope stability line, collecting it from the rear parking lot and sending it to the front of the property. So for utilities, there is separate storm and sanitary sewer on Dudley Heights. So in the green, we're proposing connection to the sanitary sewer. We showed a grease trap coming from the cafeteria portion of the school, and then just a domestic line connecting in there as well. And that is located on the KIP side of the existing sidewalk that's there, that's out of the pavement. And the proposed water also there on the north side of the building, be connecting into the existing water main on the east side of Dudley Heights. Stormwater in orange is the collection system that we're proposing in the parking lot. In the southern part of the building, so on the bottom of the page, was the only place during the geotech investigation that we could obtain any infiltration for our water quality, RV requirements of DEC. So we're proposing the underground chambers, which you see in the upper right-hand corner. After that, it will then overflow into an underground detention system, which is the cubes that you see on the bottom and all along the frontage of the property. Will go into there, be stored, and then slowly released at a rate of equal to or less than the pre-construction flows. This is just lot consolidation. So the existing KIP primary school is shown in red. And these additional 4 parcels looking to combine and make it into one, which would include the funeral home and the two family dwelling buildings. So this is a traffic study. I want to bring up Alana Moran from VHB, and she'll go through this portion.
Good evening, Alana Moran with VHB. As Walt noted, we completed the traffic evaluation for this particular project. So these are just kind of the high-level bullets associated with that traffic evaluation. So the high school itself is expected to generate about 472 new vehicle trips during the AM peak hour and about 289 during the PM peak hour. Like any other school, that activity is kind of going to be narrowed down to that, say, 20 to 30 minutes of arrival, and then that 20 to 30 minutes of dismissal. So as part of a City of Albany project, a traffic signal project being constructed or designed right now, there are plans for a new traffic signal at that intersection where the primary school is opposite the middle school in Northern Boulevard. So there will be a new signal being installed as part of that city project. So with that, we are, as Walt had noted, recommending that exiting the site, we provide 2 lanes, exiting and 1 lane entering. So instead of this just being a one-way exit at that location, it's going to be a full traffic signal, full access movements at that location. At the site driveway to the south of the site, so the newest driveway, they're accessing directly into the high school. It would be unsignalized, stop controlled essentially. And with that, we needed to look at site distance to make sure that vehicles entering and exiting can see appropriately. So the site distances do meet those guidelines associated with good sight lines exiting and entering the site. So as we noted, there will be a new traffic signal being installed as part of the City of Albany project. But the driveway will need to be widened to provide an additional lane for exiting vehicles to exit the site, specifically that right turn lane. Right now, there's pretty beefy utility pole in that southeast quadrant of the intersection. So the widening will need to happen to the north. Currently, the anticipation is that the traffic signal and pedestrians would be, instead of just the 3 legs, that we would have all 4 legs with controlled pedestrian crossings. So circulation into and out of the project, because there's the existing primary school, this really needs to be integrated with what's going on at the elementary school, as well as how to circulate into the high school itself. So right now, with the driveways closer to the elementary school, there's a one-way circulation pattern where the parents come into the site, do a drop-off much closer to the main roadway, and then exit out. With the recommendation for the high school and kind of integrating these two sites so that they're a single parcel, we're recommending that all parent drop-off, entering and exiting happen at the bottom of the high school, so everybody's coming in the same direction. And then with the elementary school dropping, the school staff comes out and they actually exit the students from the vehicles and then walk them in. So that would continue to happen. The buses would enter and exit via the traffic signal and loop around and exit at that location. High school,
Question.
yeah, sure.
How many more slides do we have? We generally for presentations do about 10 minutes to presenters. We've exceeded that time, but I don't want to cut you.
I think this one's my last slide, and then it probably goes into the architectural. Does that sound right?
Yes, then we have building elevations and floor plans if you wanted to see those. And I believe it's just a landscaping plan after that.
Alright. So just quickly then with the high school circulation, again, the parents are gonna come in through the unsignalized access at the south and then exit to the north at the traffic signal. Buses enter in and enter via the south, drop off in front of the building, and then exit at the traffic signal at the north. If needed, there is the opportunity for buses to also enter via the traffic signal and loop around the school so that we're sure that there's not any buses queuing on the main line at that location. That's it for me.
Okay, quick with the landscape plan. The different variety of trees that you see there are basically what are going to be along the frontage of the proposed project. And in the lower right-hand corner, the south boundary, nearest the closest residential property, we have a 10-foot offset with the driveway and a 42-foot offset for the building. We're proposing to put up northern white cedars and a vinyl fence, as you see in the lower right-hand corner. These are the building elevations. Once again, the bottom two floors will be a masonry type material to mimic the neighboring schools and Livingston School apartments. And the upper two levels will be metal and glass panels. And we can go right through. They're all very similar. These are the floor plans. I don't know if we want to go into any detail with these at this point, or we can wait if not. We can go through. We can just go through any questions that you may have as we progress. So if you want to keep going through. Once done the height with the demolition, as part of the seeker, we did submit all the buildings and the site to New York State SHPO. There's a CRIS site. We did get a letter of no effect for both historical national listed buildings and along with archaeological features as well. And these are just the buildings that are going to be demolished, the funeral home and the two-family dwellings. 18-month construction period and the funding plan for the KIPP school. Normal hours 7 to 6 during the week, approximately 100 employees. The closest conditional uses are the primary and the middle schools. The conditional use permit, the stormwater permit, which is required. Anticipated light noise beyond the property. No, we have submitted a photometric plan of the site lighting, and that is all contained within the site. And deliveries of vehicles is approximately 6 food service deliveries per week. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, any questions?
Yeah. No? I was curious as to whether any students will be using CDK buses to get to the school. And if so, where it stops. How it gets into the building.
Sure. There is a stop just across the street where they can cross. It's at the. Okay, so where it says Livingston School Apartments, where that driveway comes out to Dudley Heights, there is a stop right there. They get off the bus, cross the way, get out on the sidewalk, and then come up to the school or stay on that side if they're going to the middle school.
Okay.
So there's a covered station right there across the way.
Right. But no crosswalk
There is a control system.
at the stop. Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Glenn, say anything? I was just commenting to staff that it's ironic that the school is no longer a school, but apartments, and you built 3 schools across the street.
Right.
So I guess the question for the architects would be, one day if demographics and things should change, would the 3 schools in their existing footprint make way for there to be new apartments to be built inside the school? I asked it in jest, but we have an example across the street, which was the real thing, so something to consider for all of us as we go through these sorts of projects. Now, help me here, and I know the school officials are in the room, but any reason for the little kids being next to the big kids? And how many big kids will be in the high school? I'm sure there are probably some amenities that are more well suited for the middle schoolers across the street versus the other way, but wasn't the school originally middle and they put them across the street and brought it? I'm a little wonder what the big kids are doing next to the little ladies.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Valley, CEO of Capital Region Schools. So you're right, when the school was originally founded, the middle school was where the primary school was. And then when we purchased what was formerly the Green Tech building, the middle school moved across the street. In terms of why we're constructing the high school where it is now, that's the available land that we own. There's no other suitable site in that area to build it. But I think with the addition of the signalized crossing, if middle school students did need to get across the street for any amenities, we'd have a much safer way to do so than we currently do.
I'm thinking more about the cross-pollination between the little ones and the big ones. And if there's something we need to be considering in the planning process that would help.
One of the things that we will be doing is offsetting arrival and dismissal times. And so the primary school would likely arrive first, then the middle school, and then the high school. And so I think from our perspective, there shouldn't be a lot of sort of cross-pollination of students. Because by the time the primary school is done arriving, it'd be before the high school starts, and they'd be done dismissing before the high school dismisses. That's obviously, something we want to make sure is all of our students are safe and have safe ways to go home as well.
Gotcha. On the second and last slide, you had 100 employees. Is that for just the new edifice, or is that combined footprint?
That is anticipated just for the high school. So the high school would serve about 800 students, and we're anticipating somewhere between 85 and 100 staff members just for the high school.
What's the total footprint? What would be the aggregate once it's all done? All 3 plus staff, or students and then staff? So,
We have about almost 1,700 students and about 920 staff members.
any comments from staff? I didn't mean to call you up from the gallery. I just was curious.
No, I guess I'll just speak to the secret determination. We've been looking at the project for a few months now. We certainly haven't seen anything that would warrant a positive declaration under secret. So we are recommending a negative declaration. The applicant has been rather diligent in taking into consideration the slopes at the rear of the site and working with our traffic division to come up with an appropriate circulation pattern for the school. It's still discussion that's ongoing, but you know, we think any environmental issues have already or can be resolved. So our discussions.
Thank you. Council? All right, seeing no further comments, is there a motion to make a negative declaration on our secret review? So moved. Second. It's been moved and properly seconded. Are there any questions on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All righty. On to the next step.
Thank you very
Thank you.
Next up. Development plan review 017979 Central Avenue. I see Mr. Hirschberg. Of Hirschberg,
That should be 97,
97. Sorry, what did I say?
79.
79. Long day, transpose my numbers.
No worries.
This is conversion of 54,392 square feet out of a 68,892 square foot from commercial to a multi-unit dwelling containing 47 units. Okay. First appearance, but if my memory serves me, this is this the bigger thing? I'm on the wrong street.
Well, no, that would be cool. I'm the next project.
Okay, sorry.
I'm good.
No,
Okay.
no, next project.
No. I'm still a little confused, and I may be transposing my projects, but I thought this was originally going to be a storage.
They had to
No.
come in front of us
That was
last
the original
year for
application.
that.
So the application now changed to a park.
It was a different owner and different application.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
The
I'm not going
self-storage, as
crazy
you
here.
might remember, got denied.
Yeah,
So again, we went back to the drawing board, MLB Development came on board. They evaluated the building and determined that they could fit in 47 new apartments. A mixture of 2 bedrooms, 1 bedrooms with a den and 1 bedroom and some studios. So it's a good mix of types of apartments. The building has plenty of other space in it. We're able to put a significant sized lounge area, a significantly sized fitness center in it, all internal to the site, because there isn't a lot of space outside to use. You want to go through the slides, Jesseline, and this is the area here. I think you're familiar with the building. Used to be called the Hoff Building. It was actually used for storage originally, and in recent years has become used by the state of New York for offices. Offices and storage is on the upper floor. So this is the site plan. On the left side is the parking lot. We're breaking it up with a couple of tree islands and putting some screening at the rear. The rear has a chain link fence. We're changing that to a decorative aluminum fence and putting a row of boxwoods along there. We are adding a couple islands, and after discussion with the city arborist, Jay Levine, we determined we wanted to try a new large street tree, which hasn't been used much in the city. We're using sweet gum, which grows pretty big, but there's plenty of sidewalk space out there. And you normally see a 5x5 tree pit. We're putting in a 5x10 tree pit because they have more root space. So we think those will grow quite nice in the area, and there are no wires overhead to interfere with. So it's an attempt to bring in some different street trees. It's called a sub basement, even though when you think of it, the lower floor basement is at grade level at the Sherman Street side of the building. This is 1 floor down, and that's the large conference room and bike storage. We show bike storage room and a conference room. there. And a lounge there. A lounge refitted with TVs and other things that, some play capabilities, so we think that's good. The next floor up is the basement floor plan. And that has some mixture of commercial. The commercial space is all on one side of the building, because that side of the building doesn't have any windows, so we couldn't bring the apartments that side, so the commercial space over there. There are no current tenants in mind for the building, but we call that general commercial because of its location, we think it won't be attractive to people that want to come in from the street. Meanwhile, if we go to the first floor plan, on the first floor plan, we have a larger area at the front, which could support some retail use. Because it's right at street level, and we think that could come forward with a decent retail use. The balance of commercial space, like I said, is not going to be highly traveled, because probably mainly for offices or people that have the need for additional space. And the apartments are all on the parking lot side of the building, the west side of the building. And next floor plan shows it all, put some apartments in the front. And the third floor plan repeats that pretty much. And we get above the heights of the buildings next door to us on the east side, so we can now add apartments there. The same with the fourth floor. So you can see that there's a mix of different units on each building. The applicant has submitted a plan for the affordable housing component here. And they're going to follow through with all the affordable housing requirements under the new code. And these are the site photos. From the front, it's pretty familiar. From the side, it's pretty familiar. We're going to leave that fence in place there, but we are adding some shrubs along the fence line to soften that line. Prepare to answer any questions which you may have.
I have a quick question. I guess I should put that on. Can you go back to the slide right before? Thank you, Jasmine. So that fence looks like to be like an electronic fence.
Yeah.
I know you said you're keeping the electronic access as well.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And I'm assuming that the parking is sufficient.
Well, again, very few of the apartments that we're adding on a lot of our commercial space actually meet the code of one per unit. There are 47 units here, but we're entitled to a 20% reduction in units required by virtue of the fact is that we are on a bus route, on a high quality bus route there. So with that in tone, we would need 38. We had 34 in a parking lot, but we actually took out 4 parking spots by adding the 2 islands and some storage space at the end. So we're slightly below the quantity, but within the limits that this board can approve. For the required parking. Our proposal here is one that, and we think it's working out as we see some of these things become occupied. Some people are coming to Albany and not driving a car. 20 years ago, I'd be shot for saying that, because everybody drove a car. You need a car for everybody. We're starting to see apartments occupied where not everybody has a car. A lot of people are using ride sharing capabilities and CDTA buses. We have a big CDTA bus system right in front of us. So we believe that the parking will certainly be adequate.
I have a question in regards to the parking. You said that there are 34 parking spaces available?
No, there's
No,
30
there's
now.
less
We
than
cut
that.
it down. We eliminated 4. There were 34,
There were 30, so now there are 30
30.
spaces available, and planning staff that you guys approved that the 30 was okay?
Yeah, at this location, 30 would be more than adequate pursuant to the code.
Okay,
And I believe that was part of our comment to add those tree islands in the parking lot too, so that's a requirement.
okay, just because the issue of parking with these new developments have come up quite a lot, so.
We can certainly, I don't believe we're contemplating action tonight, so we can certainly prepare something.
Okay,
After the next meeting.
okay, just as long as something is I think I would be more comfortable as long as something is in writing. Saying that the 30 spaces are okay, that's fine by me.
Yeah, one quick question. I didn't catch it on the floor plans, but what is actually behind the space there that has no windows?
Those windows will be open for the,
Okay.
yeah, those windows, there actually had been windows there before. They were closed off in somewhat the ancient history, probably 20 or 30 years ago. When addition tenant didn't need windows there. Now we need windows.
So well, just to follow up on the windows, because they do look kind of outdated.
Yeah.
You know, is that part of the plans to change them out? Because they're also not standard size.
Well, again, I think the applicant proposes to work with the windows and make them suitable by using proper type of window inserts and dressing on them so that they work for internally. But I don't think they propose to change the outline of the windows.
So when it because looking at the side, like the front of them, you know, I can see them being uniform. But looking at the sides and, you know, you have some where there's windows and then you have the space where you're adding windows.
Yeah.
How is that aesthetically going to look? Without changing all of the windows, because again, those windows are not standard.
Well, again, I can take it up with the owner and the proposed owner and the architect to see what they propose to do there, but I think our goal is to try to replace those with windows in kind, like the other windows are windows that are approximately the same proportions as those windows are made. What you see there, they look like large windows, but they're actually 4 separate windows making up each of those windows.
Right, right, no, I see that, and it's a older construction. So, and that's the part of the, and I also recognizing, understanding the age of those windows, that they're expensive.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm asking the question.
Well, I'll verify, but I think the goal was to try to leave the windows the same. I know from the historical standpoint, it's old enough, it's a 50-year-old building.
Right.
We're not concerned with comments from historic people regarding retaining the view of this building, but we think there's something to be said for trying to keep it
Right.
pretty much the same.
And it also goes into energy efficiency as well,
Yeah, well,
because 50 years ago, that wasn't an issue.
Yeah. You're absolutely correct.
So,
You know, I don't know, you know, I have to check on whether or not proposing to reglaze them,
okay,
to glaze windows in there or something else, but again, I think the idea is to keep the shape of those windows the same through the final analysis.
Any additional question, comment? All right, so we'll go to the next one because it thinks that is you too.
Okay, I don't even have to get up.
You don't even have to get up. This is development and review number 01964 Colvin Avenue. And this is what I said was the big one. I think this is our last item on the agenda for tonight, so let's do our diligence, and Mr. Hirschberg, the floor is again yours.
Yep, thank you. Andy, do you want to? Sure. With me is Andy Brick, who's the attorney for Freedom Springs Albany LLC. So you can correct me if I say anything incorrectly, get me over the head. It's okay, I have a hard head. This site has, we've been discussing this site for quite a while. When we originally proposed, when the Lucino Group originally proposed this site, they proposed to build a single 5-story building with 186 units in it. They got some reaction, and actually the zoning was changed on a portion of this site quite recently. So what they've done is they redesigned it into 2 buildings, a smaller building up front and a larger building to the rear. They're going to be 3 stories and 120 units. And we also provide 120 parking spots. And commercial spaces, 4,423 square feet of unknown retail or commercial use. If you want to go to the next slide, this shows the area, and This is immediately next door to the Army Garage building that was built in 1969 or 70. We built that quite a while ago, and it was maybe not quite that long ago, but we built that building and it became the talk of the world because we had an auto dealership with a restaurant inside and a hairdresser and everything else on the second floor and a fountain in the middle. It was certainly a unique car dealership for our area. That building, you recently approved changing that to self-storage. So this building is primarily to the left of that old parking lot there is currently paved. And the next plan. This shows the building in its current arrangement. The smaller building is added up front. Number one, the code talks about having a building not more than 10 feet back from the street. So that's where that building was placed. It does, and they're both 3-story buildings that took down the viewscape of it. The mix of units are there. These will all be affordable units. Applying for grants for that, and we've been given good high signs that they'll be acceptable with one grant, and they are working with a veterans group for some housing for veterans who need housing, and I think this will be well subscribed area. The stormwater is a key issue there. A lot of people realize that when you drive down Colvin Avenue in a large storm, water is flowing in Colvin Avenue. So we designed a system was considered as the entire area as if it was unpaved, which is what the USDO code requires. Now, I might point out, this doesn't really require the USDO code requirements for it because we're disturbing more than an acre. We fall under New York State DEC requirements, which are much more forgiving. They say essentially use it as the building is now. Well, we got a fully paved lot, we wouldn't have to store any water because we're replacing with other impervious places. But we designed it with the opponents of my original. I made up the original stormwater plan for the city about 1983, which called for you to design a system so it takes you back how it was when Henry Hudson came up the Hudson River. A lot of the other engineers call it the Henry Hudson rule. So what we did is we say you have to return it to the same discharge that took place when it was entirely grass, totally unpaved. So this system does that. Requires a very large stormwater detention basin, which will intercept that water. It stores it between the 1-story building and the 3-story building at the front and the 3-story building at the back. And that's the plan of what we're doing. Next is the landscape plan. We met with Jay Levine, the city arborist, and first of all, he was concerned about the row of hemlock that adjoins the access road, which is called Anthony Street. That the hemlocks are showing sign of disease already, and he recommended that the applicant take down the hemlocks and replace them with other trees. We agreed to work with him to determine how to infill those. We've added some trees on on the inside of the property, but the trees along Anthony Street will be reviewed with Jay Levine, and we'll decide on how to replace the hemlocks. The hemlocks are about half the trees that front Anthony Street are currently hemlocks. A lot of them are stunted in growth and are beginning to show signs of disease. So we're adding landscape on the islands. We've added landscape along the backside between us and Westland Hills. And I might point out that, I'm showing the plan here, which I wish we had another component to. We originally had a plan to connect the walkway back to Westland Hills. We got some objection from the neighborhood association, so we eliminated that. But it's something that if the planning board determines that they want us to put it back, we'll put it back. Our goal here was to provide for access to the public park, but meanwhile, people have to go out, walk out to Colvin Avenue and in on Anthony Street to get to the park. We're going to have a solid fence on the side of Anthony Street without a gate. There currently is a gate in there that was an emergency exit from Army Garage, which we're closing off. It's a large swing gate. So, in any way, we don't have any direct path connection between this building and and Weston Hills Park. Next, we have some building elevation views. That's a three-story building. You see the three-story building in the front, the separate building, three-story building in the back. There's a little different architecture on both of them, although the color scheme and the basic shapes are the same. The next one shows you some the elevation views of the smaller building. Again, a little different architecture than the larger building. And then I have this is the aerial view. You can see the building superimposed over an aerial there. They sort of fit into the green area at the back. And we think it makes an attractive addition to the viewscape. And the next plan shows if you're looking down Anthony Street, you're by Colvin Avenue and Anthony Street, looking down Anthony Street, that's with the hemlocks removed. The other trees are there, but the hemlocks are shown removed. We haven't replaced them with anything, but we certainly can. And if, for some reason, they never showed the fence in there. There's also a contiguous fence along that line, which we plan on retaining in place. Next view is, this is a view from on Anthony Street. It shows the building, and again, most of those trees that would obscure that vision are the hemlocks. And the last view is from looking down Anthony Street, look view from Colvin Avenue at the entrance. And that is when you're at the entrance driveway between the self-storage on the right and the apartments on the left. That's what it looks like if you're on Colvin Avenue looking into the site. And the last one shows the view of the building. This one's out of order. We had a view of the building from Anthony Street before. Okay, that's my presentation. Prepared to answer any questions.
And I would just add, if you recall from a couple of meetings back, this project was part of the secret determination that you made, the negative declaration for the overall armory parcel. And as part of that secret review, it was analyzed as the larger project, which has been subsequently reduced in light of the zoning amendments brought forth by Councilman Clark. We reduced the size of the project to mirror the new zoning requirements, but we did, for secret purposes, for full build analysis, analyze the larger project, and you still found no potential impacts.
Yeah, this is part of the three projects were neg deck together. So from a secret standpoint, we don't need your negative declaration. We already have that in place.
So let's see, we have a list of folks to present and speak from the public side. Thank you both very much. What I'd like to do is for our board members, draw your attention to the written comments from Carol Carmen and John O'Grady. Please make sure you review those at time. Council member, I'd like for him to go last as opposed to first. And we can start with Michael O'Brien and Maria Markovics, Brian Schneider, and Lieutenant Carlos Sosa.
Hyde Clark emailed me, and he's at a council committee meeting, which he expects to make it up here. He's leaving that shortly, so I think I'll likely be the last speaker. So thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm elected to go through our timing rules. Was it 3 minutes and then 6 for electeds? Please contain your comments therein. We would prefer if we repeat things that the previous presenter made. Everything's being streamed, recorded, and we can go back and review, so we understand.
Okay.
But thank you very much.
Okay. I do know that we're not going to be making any decision today, and I have read the August 31st letter which you sent to Mr. Hertzberg citing 19 deficiencies. And I disagree with none of your citations. I think they were erudite and mostly what I wanted to talk about was a little bit beyond that. I was gonna talk a little bit about, Carol Carmen's letter, which you have, raised some traffic issues. And it did note that the traffic study information which was given was based on a New York State DOT 2019 number of 12,203 vehicles per day. I do have a question with regard to that. My memory tells me that in 2019, the auto dealership was already closed on that site, so I would ask that you check that out. I think that 12,203 cars is without an active car dealership at 64 Coleman Avenue. And then the Creighton Manning study dated or review dated April 26, 2023, and built for those comments in May of 2023 have some excellent questions which I didn't see any answers to in what's posted up on your website. For example, Bill Trudeau says requires a full ADA accessibility assessment between the various building sites and a better statement of the transit available on Central Avenue and Albany Avenue. And Bill Trudeau also cites that we need to evaluate the mid-block pedestrian crossing at Albany Avenue that has no traffic light. And I commend the city that just repainted the stripes after they have been worn off for a number of seasons. So that requires an evaluation. My personal opinion, it may very well require a stoplight. And then also I know that Creighton Manning, in their critique, said that they were concerned about driveway access on Colvin Avenue. And the plan has two full driveway accesses, one of which used to go into Farmer Garage, now would go into the self-storage place. And the other that used to go into the gas station, now would go into the apartment house. Yet there is going to be yet another one coming out of the proposed Chick-fil-A or whatever the restaurant is that's going to be put on that corner. So they, Creighton Manning and Bill Trudeau concur with this, but I haven't seen the answer to it. They want to show the driveways on Colvin Avenue. By my count, there are 15 just on that block. And that includes a new driveway that will come out of 60 Colvin, which is a Reagan development project, which has been approved. It hasn't been started yet. But by my count, counting the Chick-fil-A exit entrance and the new ones for 64 Colvin and all the existing ones, it's at least 15. And they are accounted for. And I recognize, Colvin Avenue has been zoned for apartments for many years, but we want our folks who are new to the area coming into those apartments to be in a safe environment. And I really think that Colvin Avenue, one of the things which we had submitted, and I did not see it when I tried to retrieve from your website, Officer Dan Webster gave us accident reports for 2021 and 22, and they averaged just on Colvin Avenue at least 40 accidents a year, of which maybe 4 a year require a medical response. So it's not a safe street to be welcome, not as safe as it should be, to be welcoming, a large new apartment house, although it's certainly zoned for apartments, and that is overall a good use for it. The other thing I wanted to comment was the storm water issue.
Well over our 3-minute time. I just wanted to do a time check. That probably rang about a minute and a half ago.
Oh,
and
okay.
I didn't want to stop.
I submitted, and I did not see it when I tried to retrieve all the documents. I submitted video of a flood on Colvin Avenue this past summer. And there was more than one flood, there were really two. I only photographed one. And the water was up to, so it was about 1.5 feet deep. Contrary to the assertion of Mr. Hirschberg that storm drainage will accommodate a 1, a 10, and a 100-year design storm.
Sir, I'm so sorry, but we really are at time and we have to.
Okay, no, I'm just asking you to consider the reality of the stormwater situation as demonstrated in videos and
Two things before you leave. One, anything that you want entered into the record, please submit, right? You know
I will.
already. Two, did you confirm that the videos were received?
Yeah, Brad sent me an email saying that they were
I'm
received.
surprised they're not in the file, we will add it to the
I
file.
couldn't find it.
I confirmed you that it would be in the file too, so that's my mistake, if it's not, that would be added.
I just couldn't find it, but yeah, Brad confirmed that you
It's a
received.
fun video.
Thank you very much. Maria?
Hello, my name is Maria Markovich, and I'm here on behalf of Housing for All, which is a coalition of housing and community organizations who advocate for quality, affordable housing within Albany County. And that Housing for All strongly supports the Colvin Avenue project. And we support it for a variety of reasons. First of all, certainly Albany needs the housing. There are long waiting lists for affordable housing developments in the city of Albany. And, you know, the people who work at our retail stores, supermarkets, the modest wage earners cannot afford the $1,500, $2,000 a month rents that are out there in the market. Secondly, we think that the developer has made significant concessions to the neighborhood association, reducing the number from the original 187 to 120. The location we think is very good. For people who don't drive, it's near bus lines, it's near supermarkets, it's near fast food, it's near slow food, it's near retail stores, and it's near a park, which we hope that you will put the path back into that park. The other thing is, you know, this housing is not replacing some bucolic, tree-lined field or some significant old historic buildings. It's going on a parking lot. And I think with the design we've seen, it's going to be a significant improvement to the area. So Housing for All strongly encourages you to move forward with this project. We need the housing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
No, I looked it up, what we call it.
Good. I threw that in, Chris, at the last second. I thought, well, why not?
Very nice SAT word there.
Thank you.
For those interested, it means relating to the pleasant aspects of the countryside and country life.
Yeah. Parking lot.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Brian Schneider. Not a problem.
You did a wonderful job. I don't know if I can follow that. Good evening. I'm Brian Schneider. I'm the Executive Vice President and CFO of Gateway Hudson Valley. And here to my right is Brandon Gibson, the Vice President of Residential Services for Gateway Hudson Valley. We are here in support of the 64 Colvin Avenue project. This project will transform the lives of so many people. Of course, we're discussing 120 units. And of course, we know that'll be affordable housing, which the city of Albany and really all of Albany County desperately needs. And that's, of course, most of New York State needs this. In the case of the organization that we represent, we want to support the needs of 30 seniors living in this affordable housing opportunity and offering enriched services to enhance their lives. Gateway Hudson Valley, located in Kingston, has a footprint in Greene, Columbia, Ulster, and Dutchess counties. We have a deep understanding of providing supportive services and working with housing developers the community, the city government officials and landlords to develop a sense of belonging and community. In the Hudson Valley area, we provide housing services for nearly 300 people. So we're well versed in how to provide effective, supportive, really enriching supports. And fortunately, I'll make sure I go over my 3 minutes. We have an excellent reputation in the communities where we are based. And again, we have a strong working relationship with all stakeholders. We will work with the community, both the local community, the city, and the county to ensure people who already reside in the city to have a safe, bright place, which again is right next to a park, which is wonderful, with excellent supports and really to enhance their quality of life. On a personal note, I'm a long-term resident of Albany County and a previous resident of the city. My mother-in-law, who just recently passed, she was 94, had the advantage of the wonderful services offered by the city and the county as she did age. So, I mean, wonderful supports that the city and the county does provide, as well as the local towns. And in closing, Brandon and I will be personally involved in this project, working closely with the developers and management team, as well as with the government officials to really create a wonderful experience. And fortunately, I know the landscape, at least for the Albany nonprofit community. And I know this project will be a huge benefit to the citizens of this city. And it'll really create a warm and inviting environment to the Colden Central Avenue area. Because as we all know right now, Armory Garage was wonderful, but now it's just really an open parking lot with a gas station. That's really it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Lieutenant Colonel David Sosa.
Good evening, board members, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your time. My name is David Sosa. I'm a retired Marine. I joined the Marine Corps from Albany. And my wife and I moved back here after 20 years of service. Shortly after that, I worked for Albany Housing Coalition for a couple of years, supporting homeless veterans. And I'm currently a board member with Albany Housing Coalition, whose headquarters is just a few blocks from here, and whose vet house is a few blocks from here. The coalition has been providing supports and services to homeless veterans in this community for more than 20 years. We know the community, we know the people, we know the vets, we know the resources here, and we are fully committed to our mission. And our mission is to keep veterans housed and provide housing for veterans. I'm here to speak in support of this project. Veterans face a lot of challenges. Access to affordable housing, access to transportation, access to medical services and senior services, particularly access to those medical services that are required as a result of their service, access to the VA, access to employment, and specifically proximity of supports specifically designed for veterans. This project meets all those needs. This is the type of project where we will be able to have members of our organization on site providing supports and services for those veterans to ensure that they remain housed and that they are members of the community and contributing to the community. We have already been approved for the grant for this project, which means we'll be able to provide the financial support for the units as well as provide staff to support the veterans living in those units. There will also be a veteran with lived experience residing in the community to ensure that there is on-site support almost 24/7. This is a much-needed project for the community. It's a much-needed project for our veterans. Albany Housing Coalition is committed to supporting this, and we ask that you support it as well. Thank you very much for your time. Subject to your questions.
Thank you. Are there any additional? Any questions from the board? Council? Staff?
I've got a few. We could just go to the renderings of the building along the park roadway. So at one point, I heard, I believe it was advertised, even when this was a 5-story building, that we wouldn't see the building from the Westland Hills Park. Certainly seems from this rendering, it's a 3-story building, that we can see it quite prominently. When you go down the park roadway now, this is all treed. I know some of those trees apparently from the forester may not be healthy, but I think having this been designated as a park roadway by the council, I think it's reasonable to ask for a rather robust screening profile, probably more than what you're showing here. At least for the back building, I understand for the front building, we have a group building at the corner of Colvin and Anthony at 60 Colvin. If you could show that, just Lane. So I think you should really look at that profile for emulating, that building somewhat on this front building here. I do appreciate the addition of the front building because that does meet the setback requirement, but it appears to me that the building is oriented more internally focused on the parking than it is out on the street. And the property was zoned neighborhood center, which is a more walkable district. So I think looking at the design and the orientation of the building to be placed or oriented more towards the corner of Colvin and Anthony, and at least have a front entrance on the building. I think that was in our comment letter. So that is one consideration. Also, I know when you're considering placing that building there was a question of evaluating the stability of the soils there. I didn't see a geotechnical report in the record. If we could have that added to the record, I think that would give us all assurances that the appropriate construction methods are being used to support the new structure in that location. I understand that there, I have no concerns about who's residing here or the populations residing here. That's really not the purview of this board, but I have heard reference to services being provided, and I think it would be helpful for us to understand where those services are going to be provided on the site so that we can consider that in the site design and orientation. And also ensuring whether or not those services are provided just for the residents of these properties or if they're serving a larger population. I think we have to be knowledgeable of that. We'd also like to consider this property as something that could be made EV ready for EV charging spaces. This is something we're going to be asking about on new developments. So we'd ask you to look into that. And we do support pedestrian connection to the park space. Probably there's a point where there's a median island on Anthony Street, right where that ends across Anthony Street on the opposite this development. There is a path that kind of turns into the park. We believe that would probably be the appropriate place to make the connection. Doesn't have to be a highly prominent connection, but we do believe it's not appropriate to make residents of the development walk all the way out to the street and back down Anthony Street to be able to access a public space directly adjacent to the property. And then just updating the elevation drawings to speak to the materials being utilized. I think this is the first iteration I've seen in terms of renderings, but it's not entirely clear to me what the materials are being utilized. And last would be the crosswalk that was requested by the traffic division at the access road into the Hannaford. I'm going to call it the Hannaford Plaza. I don't know if that's the appropriate name, but just up here, the beverage center and the grocery store there. There's a small roadway that goes into that shopping plaza. We believe those amenities are very important to the residents and help support the residential use at this location. So we think also as a part of this larger development that this would be the principal traffic generator of the pedestrian traffic in the area, so that cost should probably be borne and included as part of this phase of the project. Those are more comments than questions. I'm sure you'll be back for another presentation, so I ask that look into them and address them at that time.
I have no questions. I understand what you said.
Thank you, Brad. Members of the board, any additional business? Hearing none, if without objection, we can adjourn, I'll say aye. Aye. Thank you.